fishing, it's in my soul.
Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Hello, Salt Strong Nation. Joe Simons, like diamonds, breaking world records over here. Got my boy Wyatt, got bro Luke. We're talking about IGFA world records. We're members here of the IGFA, and every year they send out this really cool book. It's a book. I mean, I don't know how many pages, 450 pages of all of the different world records that have been submitted over the years. Some of these things go back way back into the 80s, 70s. I mean, there's some that have been standing for 40, 50 years. Pretty cool. And we want to do this here at the end of the year because, let's face it, we're all trying to do goals and put our to-do list. I know, Wyatt, you've got an extra neighbor who wants to break a record. You've talked about breaking a record. Maybe you'll disclose that, maybe not. But it's cool, right? I mean, I think it's part of the progression. We had that podcast recently about what makes a great angler. And, many times, you feel like you've caught a lot of fish or you caught a lot of a certain fish and you want to go after, your personal best. And then hey, let's go after a state record, then maybe a world record. There are some rules you have to follow, right, Wyatt? There's specific even rods and reels are some that you can't use, even lines, certain lines that you can and can't use. You can't have your rod tip break during the fight. There's certain little nuances that you have to do. You have to have a witness, and unless you kill the fish and bring it back to a IGFA certified scale, there are quite a few rules. But once you know them and you have the gear, it's not that hard to qualify. Do you mind sharing anything else, guys? While I look up, we're going to start with redfish and talk about some of the redfish. I'm going to make you guys guess. Any other thoughts on this?
Yeah. Unfortunately for that guess, I know which one it is, but so I won't spoil it. But there are a lot of rules when it comes to getting a world record. It's a very prestigious honor to have your name go down in that book. I've been looking at it recently because there's been some new line classes that have been introduced recently. So there's new opportunities, records that literally it's completely open. So that's the best time to go after one. But they're dependent on the species you go after. There can be different rules. For example, for some large billfish, in most of the cases of world records, you cannot have any assistance during the fight, during anything. But I believe for billfish, for marlin, you're allowed to have a line man. I want to say that because obviously you can't run a rod and reel and land the bill of that fish while doing that. There's different rules for different species, different gear you can use. And I want to say probably the biggest thing is if you are looking to break a record, it's very tough to beat an all tackle record. And there's different classes of world records. The first is an all tackle. That's literally the biggest fish on record that an angler has landed in history. Those are very tough records to beat. Most of those, Joe, as he's going to read, are standing from the 60s and 70s. Now, the ones that are a little bit easier to kind of get your name in the record books for. In fact, I want to say there's one you're going to read out on redfish. Maybe it's trout. That was in 2018 out of Texas. And those are separated by line classes. So dependent on the line, the breaking test of the line that you use, the largest fish that an angler has landed in history on that line class. So 6-pound test, 2-pound test. I read that there's a record out of Egypt for a sailfish. It was like a 90-pound sailfish, I think, landed on 2-pound test. And it works its way up to some higher line classes. And we'll go into that later when I talk about my record that I'm trying to beat. But Joe, did you find that redfish record list?
Yep, I'm on the Redfish page right here in the all tackle right there at the top. Luke, do you remember the weight of all tackle red drum?
It's in the 90s, if I remember, like mid 90s, if I remember right.
94 pounds. 2 ounces.
It's a big redfish.
That's crazy. Do you remember the city, Wyatt? You used to live near there.
It's Cape Hatteras National Seashore. I know exactly where it was caught. It's off that it's called the Point. Very famous spot to go after redfish. It's up in the Outer Banks. And if you see you can look up a picture of that red. They got a picture of it. The guy standing next to it with his rod and reel. That thing looks like a Goliath grouper. It's a monster of a fish.
And they 94, almost 100 pounds.
They catch a lot of fish that are still around that size at that point. And it happens real. In fact, one of the line class records that's below that, it was like, I want to say 3 pounds off. If you go through those line class records, and that was like within the last 5-10 years that someone came that close. So it could, and that's a difference of a redfish eating a few mullet in a day, and you happen to land it at that time. So I always think about stuff like that. You could catch one of these fish on the day that it's eaten a lot, and you could break a record from 40, 50 years ago. It's insane. And that opportunity is out there every single time that you cast.
What's crazy is North Carolina has every single record except 2.
For redfish?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I know like the second and third, all those really big ones seem like they're all from that same area. So I'm for that alone, I want to go fish it. It's just how cool to fish an area that there's a potential for a record, like a like all tackle record for that matter. Yep. Pretty awesome.
Have you ever been to Ocracoke?
Yeah, Ocracoke. Goodness, Joe. They call that up there the land of giants. And if you look at the flounder records, there's some big ones that come out of there too. So North Carolina is very well known as a fishery. It sits on the border of where a lot of the very popular southern game fish meet colder northern waters. And if you look at scientific studies, there's a principle that in colder temperatures, things grow larger, but at a certain temperature, most of those inshore game fish we're after just cannot exist and thrive. North Carolina is right on that border where you get the largest possible specimens while they're still able to survive. You look at Virginia, there's a very large consistency of big trout that come out of there as well, but that's one of those species that has a tough time with cold temperatures. So there's a flux. I know we'll talk about trout in a second, but I mean, there's a few states and regions that are just perfect for trophy class fish, for world record class fish. In North Carolina, Pamlico Sound, Outer Banks, those are hotspot destinations if you're looking to get your name in the history books.
Yep. I say, just based on this, go to Ocracoke, North Carolina. That's nuts. It's listed here over and over and over again. And it's all near the Oriental and Oregon Inlet. Cape Hatteras is on there multiple times. All those areas are really close to each other. I want to give old George Hogan Jr. a shout out, though. The dude goes and sets a world record on 2-pound line class and catches a 41-pound redfish in Ocracoke. Pardon me, North Carolina peeps. I have no idea how to pronounce any of these cities, but Wyatt has already corrected me once. But I'm going to say Ocracoke the rest of this podcast. And then that's 1995. The next year, he goes, actually just a couple months later, so it was November 15th, 1995, catches a 41 pound redfish on 2-pound line. Then he goes to Indian River Lagoon, so Florida makes it in here, and catches a 52-pound red on 4-pound test. But that's crazy.
Said his name was what?
George Hogan Jr.
More like Hulk Hogan Jr. with all these red.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And on those big redfish in North Carolina too, I believe they're fishing from the beach too. At least the ones that I read up on, they're just fishing surf and a lot of cut bait, just soaking them out there, and just giant reds cruising the shoreline.
The beauty of that area is that the hot spots are impossible to miss, because there's guys that are, they dedicate their entire lives to getting their name in the history books, and they spend all their free time out there. So you go to the beach, you drive the beach, and it's nothing for miles, and then you hit the point and it's 600 cars that are parked on the beach, and everyone's standing shoulder to shoulder, chunking cut mullet with those Hatteras heavers, which is a specific type of rod meant for these world-class redfish. And there's a very specific way of fishing for them, and it's a way of life there to go and try and attempt to get your name in.
Well, on the The next page, because it's literally right next to Redfish, is summer flounder. Do you guys know the largest all tackle summer flounder?
Summer is so you got summer and southern, two different speeds. Summer is the bigger one. I want to say it's like a 27,
22. It's massive.
Fake
All right.
flounder.
So can you imagine?
Where was that one? What state?
In Montauk. Come on, up in New York.
Yeah.
All right. The speckled trout. That is where Florida, in particular, Fort Pierce, has some big ones. The lagoon has some big ones. Do you know the largest all tackle?
It's around 18, I believe.
17.
Yes, 17.7. Fort Pierce. Craig Carson, there's a picture of that dude. Remember, that's the one where he's got his shirt off and he's on a pier. Fort Pierce Pier. Isn't that nuts? I assume he's definitely not on a boat.
Well, smart fishermen wouldn't take a picture in their world record winning spot. So
I thought that was on topwater plug. I don't know if that was on a pier or not, but yeah, what a beast. And I think that same area has multiple of most of the top fish. Like that, for whatever reason, the area has giants. I used to fish that Sebastian to Vero area, and it's just barely north of it. And it's insane how many big fish they have there. It really was remarkable.
What's insane that no one's gotten close to that. I mean, all the other ones are in the one other one actually. No, I guess no one's else gotten close to it. 14, a lot of 12s, 14s, but I mean to go to 17, dude, that's crazy. 17.7 is absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
There's a couple Texas on there. Why now that you moved back to Texas? There's Texas City, Flats.
Yeah, so I think there's two for redfish in Texas. There's a few for trout in Texas. I don't believe there's any flounder, and it would be southern flounder in Texas. I don't think there's any. I could be wrong there, but Texas, there's a couple areas in Texas that are world-class trophy fish, for sure. But it seems like North Carolina and that east coast of Florida, I think a lot of the trout that are on that list that are not Texas I think all the Florida ones came from East Coast East Coast.
Oh, here's one that I might be able to get on is Ladyfish. There's quite a few vacant. Basically, if you submit anything, wow. So 12-pound test. There's no one there. Luke, let's get on the Ladyfish.
We could do that tomorrow.
I know. Yeah. Wow.
That's it. Like, why not? Why not?
Yeah,
why not get your name in the record book?
Let's get Sean out there, Joe. Let's get her set up and catch Ladyfish 12-pound test. We're good. That'd be sick.
That is pretty funny. Yeah, because I mean, even the world records for ladyfish are in the 3 pounds. It's a big ladyfish, but it's not something that's crazy. There's one though. So Marco Island has a pretty big. I mean, it's a 4 pound 4 ounce. It's a big ladyfish. But someone in Mozambique, that's 15 pound. I wonder if that was maybe not a baby tarpon. That's crazy. 15-pound ladyfish.
It's funny to see which regions also specialize in a specific. So I was looking at a lot of stuff outside of just inshore species, just for fun. And there's some species in the world where it's like, oh, you hear about people catching them in the US. I think, we all think of the Keys as a premier billfish type area, and you think Costa Rica, like all these areas where people go to catch marlin and sailfish, these really popular destinations. And it's like Egypt has amazing sailfish, and it's like all these crazy giant. It's like, there's a lot of other fish too. That was just the first one to come to mind. That's like you hear them being a very popular fish to go after here in the U.S. or North America, and it's like on the other side of the world they've got them too, and they're just giants over there. But the one thing I want to circle back to, like you were saying with ladyfish, 12-pound test, someone catches, it has to be for those all class records, or not all class, the tackle line class records has to be half the weight of that line class. So if you caught a 6-pound ladyfish, then you're in contention. But for stuff that's under that, like it has to be at least half of that line class. I guess I guess that leads into the record that I want to break. Joe, if you go back to Redfish and see what that last new line class was added as, because I think the IGFA knows that there's some pretty tough records to beat in there. So they added a new line class for everything. But a lot of fish will never reach, you're never going to be able to get a trout on this record, but the redfish, it's a possibility. Is that what, can you read to me what that last new line class is? I want to say it's 120 or maybe it's 140.
I'm not seeing it in this book, in this 2021 book yet.
Okay. So there's a new line class that they just introduced, and I want to say it's vacant right now for redfish. For someone that's an Ocracoke, for, if they're out there catching
Ocracoke.
Oh gosh, Ocracoke. Sounds like you're saying Ocracoke. For folks that are out there catching those 90-pound reds that are pretty close to that all tackle record, if they were throwing it with 110-pound certified line, they would be the new owner of that new line class record. So I'm not going to say it outright, but I love all of our listeners. There's an opportunity for you right now to get your names in the record book for redfish. With this new line class. It just requires you to get in there, do a little research on what the rules are, because the rules for the line class records are different than all tackle. So you got to make sure you follow them. There's way more rules for those. But there's something open right now for our favorite species out there.
Very interesting. Moving on to favorite species, the old snook. I don't see an all tackle on the snook, so it's just
should be 50 something. I think is the biggest one I've heard of.
What do you guess, Wyatt?
54.
It's close.
I think 56.
53 pounds 10 ounces.
54.
That's a
big
beast.
It's a very big snook. Where was it?
What do you think?
Costa Rica.
Jupiter.
Yep. Costa Rica's got the top 3.
Wow. So they're next level there. With Joe and I, we fished there years ago, and it was insane. The snook, it's like an East Coast snook where they're like shaped like a football, but just fatter.
Remember the name George Hogan?
Goodness gracious, he's back at it again.
So he's on here twice. So he caught 24. This is impossible. 24-pound snook on 2-pound mono.
Gosh.
Can you imagine? And that was in Jupiter. And then shortly after, George Hogan Jr. catches a 41-pound snook on 6-pound mono.
How's George doing this? This guy's
How have I never heard of this guy?
We need to get him on a podcast.
Crazy. Can you imagine though? I mean, did he find a snook without lips or something? That's just crazy.
No, but you can have a thicker leader. It's I believe the line class. It's like 16 feet of line above the leader. So I think you can have a bite tippet on the end. Why does that make sense?
I'm not 100%. I think that double line, I think the reason that double, I could be wrong here. I don't remember exactly what the rules are regarding leader, but I think when I read that, they were talking about, because I know you do bimini knots with
the offshore stuff.
So it's like, I know that's a very common thing. Man,
so I just found it online, and it's saying that so line class world records are kept for each edible species according to the breaking strength of the first 5 meters, which is 16.5 feet of line directly preceding the double line, leader, or hook. So his leader is in there too. So if you have, a 40-pound leader, it sounds like you can go down to the 2-pound line class after the leader, is how I read it.
Okay.
It says this section is talking about the 5-meter section. This section must be comprised of a single homogeneous piece of line. And then for all line class records, the weight of the fish must be at least 1/2 of the line class. So to get that ladyfish on 12-pound record, it has to be at least 6 pounds. That's a big ladyfish.
Yeah.
So that's why that explains why it's open.
That's why it's vacant. Yeah.
Yeah. Someone could get one. Someone could get one.
Of all the records, that's probably the one that I wouldn't want to have. Maybe catfish might be below that, or pufferfish. But
Dude, it's a record book. I'll take late. Dude, look at the Pinfish record. Look at the Pinfish record. That's the one and there was a big one. I was looking at Texas's records, and there's record also. Everyone here know that IGFA is the everything. There's also records for your state, but they usually are just done by a total weight, they don't have it as separated into line classes. I don't know, maybe some do, but in Texas, I just was sitting there thinking, some guy was out there fishing for reds one day, caught a monster pinfish, looked at it and went, I bet no one has ever caught a pinfish this big. And he took it down to the weigh station. They're like, dude, congrats. You're now the record holder. I'm just thinking somebody had the world record pinfish. It's I can't remember exactly what it is.
I don't know that it made it in the actual magazine.
Oh, it's in there.
Is it?
Oh yeah. Oh, it might not have made it in the magazine. I can look it up and find out what the record is for the.
That's pretty funny. What is it, Luke? Triple tail. You love triple tail. What do you think?
Ooh, they get big. That's like 30 or 40 pounds, I think.
42 pounds.
Oof. It's big.
In 89. What's crazy is almost all the records, minus that one, that was South Africa, are in Port Canaveral, Florida.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. Port Canaveral. I know Louisiana has big ones too, but Port Canaveral is known.
Louisiana is not even on the list.
Wow. Canaveral's where it's at for triple tail.
Yep. I mean, I'm talking lots, 33 to 40 pounders in Port Canaveral. And Fort Pierce has a 40 pounder.
Wow.
You ready for the world record pinner?
Yep.
3.5 pounds out of Mississippi. And then the rest of the list was like Pensacola.
Size.
That's hilarious. That is hilarious.
It's a decent bass.
Yeah. Mutton snapper, 30-pound mutton. Man, this is so cool.
Serious. You could sit there and flip through them all day and just imagine the size of some of those fish. Just is mind-boggling. But they're swimming out there, and there's always an opportunity every cast.
Absolutely. And as they make, because IGFA, they want to make it creative and they want it to be fun and they want new records, right? They don't want every record to be from the 70s and 80s. So I have a feeling they'll probably create more opportunities. And they got the junior class in there, and they have the men, female. So they have expanded it. And I'm interested to hear what you guys think. What is the one fish that you would like to be in there? Or is it a pufferfish? Is a catfish even in there? Do you see it online? I didn't see it in here.
I can find it.
It's definitely in there on the freshwater side, because this has got freshwater and saltwater. Because catfish is big and in the freshwater side of things.
Give me a quick second here. I will get it for you.
Let's see. Gar. Cat. Oh, look at this sharp tooth catfish, red tail catfish.
Well, gaff top. Yeah, I wonder how big those steel cats get big.
Blue flathead channel catfish.
All right, I got it. Oh, it's out of Corpus, my hometown. Are you ready for it?
What is it?
4 pound.
4 pound
Climber.
Hardhead.
Hardhead. The gaff top is serious though. Gaff top.
That's probably at least 10.
14.
Wow. Oh, dude.
Think all the slime that thing put on the line. That was a big catfish.
That was crazy.
Gosh.
Well, what about you guys? Luke, what do you want to be in?
Triple tail would be, or Snook. Snook would be my favorite. That would be the one that would that's been my favorite. Growing up as a bass fisherman, Snook, they just behave so much similar. That they're aggressive. They fight good. You can grab their lip. It's just it's awesome. So that would be my dream is to get on the Snook board somehow.
That'd be cool.
I need to call George and find his secrets.
Seriously.
That's amazing. That really is remarkable. That one person has so many records in different species in different states. That's impressive.
I mean, it's kind of like Meredith McCord. She's got 30 something now. It's crazy. nuts. So yeah, we'd love to hear from you guys. It's just kind of a fun one that kind of came up last minute. We're like, man, we should do a podcast on this. I'm willing to bet a lot of people didn't know about it. And cool news is you don't have to have the magazine. Magazine's just kind of cool. I like to keep it in the house. People look at it when they come over. It's just always kind of neat to thumb through. And there are some of those that are vacant that I think are a little bit, easier to get. That Ladyfish one is a little bit tougher, knowing that you have to double it the size. But let us know. Go to the comment section and let us know what fish or species or specific little tippets or lines or line class, whatever it is. There's fly fishing ones obviously as well. That open up a whole new opportunity for people on the fly side of things. So kind of neat. And we'll be hoping, wishing, and praying for you, Wyatt, that you make it in there in your little new line class
with your 100+ pound line.
Yeah. I just looking at some of the other ones, they're going to be, thinking about landing a 40-pound drum on 2-pound test. That's just like, man, that'd be so difficult. I have a hard enough time doing it with 65. So, man, and I mean, I hope that everyone listening knows that if they want to break a world record, the best way to do that is to learn how to catch fish better. And that's exactly what our community is designed to do. So if you're looking and you're listening, you want to catch more fish, you want to catch the world record fish. I actually done a bunch of spot dissections up in the Carolinas, some pretty good areas to go out and maybe get yourself one of those world record flounder, world record redfish. So I would say if you're looking to do that, definitely join us in the Insider Club.
Mm-hmm. Well said. That's over at saltstrong.com. And really, really, really big things coming in 2022 for our Insider members. We always, have some cool stuff. This is next level. We've now got 26,000 members, which has enabled us to get some really good deals on certain types of tackle, have some new proprietary tackle you can't find anywhere else, and even some new technology to help you find the fish faster than ever. This is going to take quite a few more months before it's all out. But you'll know when it happens because the whole world will be buzzing about it. It is next level in terms of helping you find the fish using technology right there on your little phone, on the little device, catching inshore slams and maybe even world records in the shortest amount of time possible. So guys, come join us there. For you current members who are listening, thank you guys so much. We appreciate you big time. And depending on if you're hearing this at the very end of the year or even in the new year, we appreciate you. I love you. And I hope you have an amazing 2022 with us at saltstrong.com. Wyatt, Luke, you guys are world class guys, real standout. We out of here. Peace.
See ya.
'Cause fishing, it's in my soul.